the studios to hang with
Oh,
my
my.
boy. This is my husband. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I have a topic I want to discuss today. It's about racism in the Bahamas and how subtle it's become. I mean, would you agree on that?
You mean that it is still here, but it's a bit more subtle? I can agree.
I was employed in the hospitality industry for about 12 years. In fact, I grew up in the hospitality industry. I was 16 when I started. I used to work for this white guy, and just some of the things he used to say, like whenever he was referring to people of color, he would say "you people."
Yeah.
And it always stuck with me, and it always bothered me in a sense. I could remember this particular incident where I was standing in front of the establishment, just killing time until service starts, and it was this person of color. I don't like to say black, but it was this black person that wanted to use...
No, I just wanted to interject there for a second because I am the same way. Over time, we've somehow been given this label of, calling our race black and Caucasians calling themselves white, and we didn't call ourselves black. That was the label given to us.
Right.
First, Negro being that's Spanish for black. I think Spanish.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, so that is the label that we were given, and I do not like using the word black to describe my race or the part of my heritage that is from Africa, because the word black has so many negative connotations.
Right.
So you can call me African descendant, you can call me person of color, you can call me anything you like, but I do not use the word black to describe my ethnicity, just because that was a label that was given to us, and that word has so many negative connotations. So I'll go into that in another video, but I'm gonna leave it right there. So yes.
Yeah. So it was this person of color that wanted to use the restroom, and I was like, it's a public place, no problem, go ahead. And that happened 3 times. 3 persons of color came to the restaurant to use the bathroom. The 3rd time, my employer, he got a little upset about, these people using the bathroom. And I was like, I don't know what you want me to say. It's a public place. They should be able to...
It's a business. It's not quite public, but it is
right,
a business place.
But don't forget, it's a restaurant.
Yeah, public comes there, yeah.
And to be honest, my experience working there, I could tell you have more colored people that patronize that business than white folks, to be honest. But anyhow, and then afterwards, a white person came in, and he was standing right at the door, wanted to use the bathroom, and he was all, oh yeah, go ahead, right up the stairs, this and that. And
no, but you missed the part. Some regular Bahamians of color were there.
These were Bahamian
They came
people.
to use the bathroom, and then afterwards he made noise about it, like those people aren't supposed to be using the bathroom. And then didn't he make some kind of comment about you don't know what they might have?
Right.
Okay. It's like somehow Bahamians of color have things.
Now, hold on, now,
but that white people don't.
Right, now, hear me out.
Really?
After the white person left...
I'm pretty sure the tourists bring it here. But anyway.
After the white person left, he didn't say anything. After that, another Bahamian person came in, and, after they used the bathroom, he was like, oh, I don't want them to use the bathroom, they may have something, and I was like, what?
Yeah, but then after a visitor came there, I guess probably a white American or whatever.
Yeah, the person was white.
Then he didn't have a problem with them using the bathroom.
Right.
But somehow, regular old Bahamians,
right?
They might have something.
Right. And
what?
The crazy thing is, I have a brother that used to frequent the restaurant, and he told me, it's like, before my eyes opened up, I asked him, I said, why don't come out to the restaurant no more? And he was like, because how they treat me. So I don't know if you've seen it, but you know, they treat you funny. If you're a person of color, a Bahamian, a colored Bahamian, you get treated funny. And that it just really put a sour taste in my mouth. From that point.
Okay. Well, okay. My experiences that I can recall right now, because he just pulled me over here, so I wasn't quite prepared. But no, the experiences that I had would have been in the U.S. while I was studying. I went to LSU. I spent 3 years there. Awesome school. I mean, like the best years. Wow, had so much fun. I mean, it made so many good friends, and I just loved the time there. But I had a roommate at one point. We were only roommates. This was my freshman year, and we were sharing a dorm for a couple of months. Yeah, we didn't last together very long. And she was from a really small town in Louisiana, really small town.
Hick town.
I don't know, I guess. Anyway, it was a small town, and yeah, she's like, I guess her first time in the big city, Baton Rouge. Shout out to all my LSU posse. So anyway, we were sharing a room together. Obviously, she was Caucasian, and I was this islander from the Bahamas. And so we had a couple little run-ins. Now, I had other great roommates. So this is not like a black-white thing, because I had white roommates, and we had awesome times. I mean, I had great roommates. It was just this particular roommate that I had my freshman year. She claimed to be this big-time Christian. Mama and daddy, they big-time Christians.
Oh yeah, you can find them in the church.
A couple different little run-ins. One of the things was with her parents, okay? She admitted to me that her parents, they call black Americans, I guess, or black people in general, colored people, whatever, they call them niggers, okay? But she swears to me that they are good, wholesome Christians, okay?
So
Hold on, don't stop me now. You done got me riled up now. So, and she will defend them down to the ground. They are good Christian people. But, they just call people of color niggers, okay? Okay. So, yeah, one time she invited me to stay by her for the weekend. I don't know when this was, but she just asked me, I want to come spend the weekend with her. She's going home for the weekend. And I said to her, why in the world would you invite me to your house, knowing the way your family thinks about people that look like me, that aren't white? And this blew my mind. She said, they don't think about you like that. You're from the Bahamas.
So what the heck that's supposed to mean?
So people, if you are, I guess, an African American, then you're a nigger. But if you're from the Bahamas, I guess I was like tropical and all that good stuff. What? So it's like, I don't think about you like that. You're from the Bahamas.
Okay, let me ask you a quick question. You think that had anything to do with you being light skinned?
I cannot imagine what goes through her head or their heads at any given point. And when I say there, I'm talking about this girl and her family. That is the way they think, and so I'm not sure. Well, she said to me that it was because I was from the Bahamas, they didn't look at me like that. So I'm assuming that if I was an American of color,
right,
then that is how they would have looked at me. Yes, because she would even make comments to me like how her dad, how he, would say, these niggers, like, African Americans, they're so lazy and this and that. And I'm like, does he even know any African Americans? Because I'm sure he probably doesn't have friends that are of color.
Well,
I just couldn't imagine.
I'd like to say it's a good thing you didn't go when she invited you. You know, you probably would have been lynched or something.
Anyway, um, so like I said, just sharing my little experiences. I'm sure other people have had worse things happen to them, but that's just like something that I experienced. Yeah, but I must say though, that happened, but I had so many other awesome positive times at LSU and made so many great friends. So like that was just a small, this was just a small little dot on, my sheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get back into the Bahamas. I was reading this article. This columnist, his name is Larry Smith, and he seems to be a bigot. I've read a few to the point where I was like, dude, this dude, something wrong with him. Okay, like seriously, I really think something is wrong with him. But anyhow, the article was about race in the 21st century, and he said Bahamians have this idea that white Bahamians, today's white Bahamians, are keeping them down. Like to say, the man has his foot on the black person's neck. And at the end of the article, he found it to be comical. You know what I mean? And it bothered me so much to the point where I had to go and do some research. And if you first of all, they're not gonna teach this type of subject in the schools. I know, and you probably could agree with me on this. There's a small, they cover slavery, but the topic is small. He found it comical, saying that black people think white people are keeping them down in the Bahamas. But
I want to interject whenever you got to say.
Go ahead, but let's look at history, okay? During the 40s up to 1967 in the Bahamas, a lot of places didn't receive.
Gotta go way back further than the 40s.
Yeah, you could go before that too, okay? But during the time when my mom was growing up, and I have a great aunt who was growing up and stuff like that, they could tell you how it used to be in the Bahamas. Restaurants were segregated. Downtown area for blacks after work hours is a no-no.
And you had to be out of there.
Out of there, okay? And when you leave downtown, the old people had a saying, head over the wall. Well, the wall no longer, remnants of the wall are still there. This is the Collins Wall I'm talking about.
And they say head over the hill.
Now they say head over the hill. Okay? Yeah, a black person, me, if I was in that time, in that era, I couldn't keep my hat on in the presence of a white person. If I was to address a white person, I had to take my hat off. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And to me, it symbolized like.
Well, I have to stop you there because, okay, because the Bahamas, our main industry is tourism, okay, we have kind of gotten like a double dose of this very submissive personality.
Like
let me finish. Well, we got the first dose with slavery where we were taught to bow and tuck tail to the white master, okay? And now we're getting a double dose with tourism being our main industry because we've been taught now the white man is who's paying your bill, he's paying your salary. The white people don't bring their money here, you can't eat. And so we've now been taught to bow and tuck tail for the white visitor. And I see this every day. Oh my goodness. I live on Indusra. You also have Harbran and Spanish Wells. And in the areas where, where tourism is like really booming or like the main industry,
They will
see it so
treat-
much. The white tourist, the white visitor, with so much respect, so much dignity, they will do for the white visitor what they wouldn't do for their own family, their own children. Almost, it's so crazy.
Right.
A Bahamian, a regular Bahamian, you'll get the worst, crappiest service known to man.
Right.
But they would be able to take the shirt off their back for a white visitor,
Right.
just to keep them happy.
Right.
And it's so crazy. It is so crazy.
Double standard.
So, if you're gonna give good service, give good service to everyone.
Right.
But shake off these mental shackles of slavery and of being this tourism service oriented people, and
Right.
have some dignity.
Right.
I mean, grow some backbone, have some pride. Don't feel like you are, you have to be subservient to a foreigner just because,
come with
they're
money.
visiting
Right.
your country. They want to come here because our country is beautiful and we have a lot to offer. If we didn't, they wouldn't come here. So just have some self-respect and some pride and some dignity, and stop. Just oh my gosh, it just sickens me. But just stop all of this. Just stop it, Dread.
Right. And
Yeah. What
even
would you say?
for you. I think I mentioned this to you before. When I was working in the hospitality field, when I first started to work, they would teach you how to talk.
Oh Lord! Wow!
Hey, look here, buddy. This thing's so messed up. When you're dealing with tourists, you ought to say yes sir or no sir, or your British accent goes out the door and the American accent comes in. Can I help?
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
No
Wait.
sir. Absolutely not sir. Yes,
Oh
yes.
my goodness! Oh my gosh! Let me tell you how much I hate that. Okay. When I was going to school in the U.S. and I would talk, people will be stopping you everywhere you are. Oh my
Love your
gosh!
accent,
Oh my
right?
gosh! Where are you from? Say that again. These people love our accent, our Bahamian accent. But
Right.
for some reason, Bahamians, and not just Bahamians, other Caribbean countries
Right.
too. But for some reason, Bahamians feel like they have to mimic the visitor's accent when they're speaking to the visitor.
Right.
So you're working in the hospitality industry. You're dealing with a foreigner, most likely American, because most tourists that visit the Bahamas are American. And so they ask you a question and you respond to them in an American accent. That is the craziest thing to me. I'm trying to figure out, are you ashamed of your accent?
Right.
Why in the world are you mimicking this American accent? And that is the stupidest. I'm sorry. If you do it, stop please. Okay? Ain't nobody got time for that. Please speak with your Bahamian accent. That putting on this American accent thing, that's the 60s and 70s. Ain't nobody got time for that no more.
Right.
Stop it, boy. That looks so stupid. You are Bahamian. Why are you putting on a foreign accent? That is like, oh my gosh. If you work in a restaurant, a hotel, or anywhere else, and you're doing that foolishness, get your life together. Yeah, like I was saying, if I was to visit another country like Canada, France, US, wherever, and I am speaking to a worker over there, and they're responding to me in my accent, but clearly they're not Bahamian, I'll be trying to figure out, like, are they mocking me?
Right.
I mean, that's how
Or
you
making
sound.
making fun.
Yeah, it's like, are you mocking me? Like, what are you doing? That's how it sounds, people, when you mimic the tourist accent. It sounds pretty crazy.
Yeah. Stop that. Seriously, stop that.
Anyway, it's just my 5 cents.
So Nicolette Bethel was quoted by Larry Smith in the Tribune, and her thing was, Bahamians have been brainwashed to think that they experience racism like Black Americans. But for me, after doing research, this is how I think we experienced it. yeah, we've in some way we've experienced it through the international media resource. Um, for instance, Rodney King, um, Henry Gates, as of recent, Trayvon Martin, and you know, as a person of color, when I sit down and I watch the news and I see these injustices that goes on in the United States, I feel it as well. Um, she 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 said, and I quote, brainwashed, and that word brainwash stood out to me. I My mind automatically went on Willie Lynch. He was a Caribbean slave owner, British Caribbean slave owner, that was invited to Virginia to give a speech on how to make a slave. Um, and his methods were diabolical. And you have to keep in mind, it was just not to oppress the person of color, but it was also about economics, not just for the present time, but also for future generations. So, you know, if you read, you take time and you read the letter, um, his methods were so dreadful, it's still having an effect on the way people of color think. Okay, yeah, the white man in the Bahamas may not have his foot on the black man's neck, but in many ways, especially when it comes to economics, back in the day, they cheated a lot of colored Bahamians out of opportunities. Okay, they stopped a lot of Bahamians from having certain access and enjoying certain amenities of the Bahamas. So, you know, you can't blame the colored person for feeling that way.
Okay, well, I want to get back to the lecture that you mentioned, okay? Her saying that Bahamians have been brainwashed to feel like they somehow had the same experiences as, you know, slaves or former slaves in the U.S.
Right.
So her saying brainwashed, that means to me that obviously she doesn't think Bahamians had the same experience.
Obviously, yeah.
So, you know, what I believe, okay, we're going to differ on this. Bahamians back then, who were slaves,
Right.
had the exact same experience.
Exactly.
Because they were slaves, just like the African descendants in the U.S. The only difference is that post-slavery, the Bahamas has always been a predominantly,
Black nation.
yes, predominantly a nation of color.
Right.
Okay, so most of the population is of color. Whites are a minority.
Sorry.
Okay, whereas in the U.S., whites are the majority, and so people of color are in the minority. But even though you have that difference, where you have mainly people of color in the Bahamas, and in the U.S. it's, you know, mainly whites, you have the same problem of the people of color not owning the wealth in the country.
Right.
So in the United States, you may say, well, okay, the whites have most of the wealth, and well, you expect that because they're the majority of the population.
Right.
Okay, but you come to the Bahamas, where
So the other way
whites
around.
are a very small minority of the population, and they still control the majority, the overwhelming majority of wealth in the Bahamas.
85% of the wealth.
Yeah,
And
about
there's only
like
15% whites
yeah.
in the Bahamas.
So, as far as opportunities, being able to go to school, being able to send your children to school, being able to start a business, being able to own land, all of those things, those are the exact same way. Historically, we have suffered and been oppressed in the same ways.
Exactly.
And it's even worse because we make up the majority of the people. But because historically that wealth was owned by the slave masters and the white families, the British families and the settlers, and on from there, and you look around you, the people that you see in the Bahamas that have a bunch of money, Simonettes, Kellys,
Oh,
this
yeah.
and the next, okay?
Oh,
These people, look at the fifth family history
Handed
historically.
down wealth.
So, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure these things out. So when you have the majority of the wealth being held by a small minority of people, and they're controlling government because they control the government.
Exactly.
So, up until independence, you literally had, you know, these were the people that controlled government. They were the politicians. They constructed the laws that said if you weren't a landholder.
Right. This is during the UBP era.
Yes, if you weren't a landholder, so if you didn't have title to land, you could not vote. So now, who were landholders? Who in the Bahamas had, titles to land?
Right.
It was the wealthier whites.
Right.
Okay, so they constructed these laws that said basically only we, the landholders, can vote, and so they're constantly voting for themselves. How is it that the majority of people are ever going to rise above and actually get anywhere when they're being denied through the law, when they're being denied through economics,
Exactly.
when they're being denied through education, when everything is against you, okay? Because when people are in power, they construct like laws and everything to keep themselves in power, to keep things the way they want it to be.
The funny thing is,
so,
just how you mentioned that, and I'll call this a chess play. With whites who had the wealth, what they did, they were lawyers and they had the money to do certain things, so they sent their children off to school to become lawyers.
Of course.
And what they did, they manipulated the law for their own selfish gain. When you go around the Bahamas, even around this island, okay, H.G. Christie owned everything.
Ooh, quieting of titles.
That's another thing. They own everything.
Quieting of titles, okay? Now, I know a lot of people know about this, but a lot of people don't.
Exactly.
Quieting of titles. You need to go do your research on this Quieting of Titles Act. This is a law that, like I say, the lawmakers put in place for themselves because they were lawyers, and they wrote the laws and they had the laws implemented.
Right.
So that they could go around and they could acquire land through this Quieting of Titles Act. So I don't know if they had to pay a little something to the government, but they sit on the land for so many years, and then they could claim ownership of it.
Right.
Okay.
I think it's 10 years.
And so you go around up on the Lutheran, you see everywhere, the land. You wonder how these people own this land.
Yeah.
How one real estate people how these people get all this land, because they didn't pay for it, they didn't buy it. How they even get it? But it was acquired through this Quieting of Titles Act, and they did that for thousands of acres, thousands, all over the Bahamas.
Of years.
While the average Bahamian didn't know what a Quieting of Titles Act was.
Right.
You see, so wake up, Bahamas. The sun is up, so wake up.
Wake up. I mean, we really have to start putting a face on injustice in the Bahamas. We have to, and once you notice it, expose it. So now that we have discussed it, racism in the Bahamas, I think the only way we are excuse me, the only way it's going to stop if we learn to love each other, learn to respect each other's differences.
All we need is love.
Yeah, that's the only way I see, us coming together as a Bahamas, whether you're white. Just want to thank you guys for tuning in, and you leave a comment. You don't have to leave a comment. Don't get nasty with the comments, because I get nasty too. But anyhow, just kidding. But tune in for the next show. I'm gonna try to get Roll On in. Those of you who know Roll On,
fire.
don't play.
The boy is fire.
Good friend of mine, and we're gonna be discussing the church. So I don't think you want to miss that one.
All right. Bye. Where you going?